Welcome to today's webinar on Intro to Unity for 360 photographers. My name is Tanya Barnes, Director of Online Education of the International Virtual Reality Professionals Association, also known fondly as IVRPA for brevity. I'll be moderating today's event. With me today is Karen Lodisi, Vice President of IVRPA.
Hi there. I'll be working behind the scenes today and helping out with the questions and answers after the webinar.
Thank you, Karen. IVRPA is a nonprofit organization supported by our members and sponsors and operated entirely by volunteers. We provide resources in nearly all aspects of 360 panoramic photography and are pleased to offer this webinar to our members and friends around the world. Giving today's presentation is Juan Camilo Infante, co-founder and CTO of Perspectiva 360. He is a 360 panoramic photographer and a Unity developer for Oculus/OpenVR. Furthermore, Juan is a fellow of the Young Leaders of the Americas Initiative, funded by the United States Department of State's Bureau of Educational and Cultural Affairs. Finally, Juan is the newest member of the Board of Directors for IVRPA. Intro to Unity for 360 photographers is a 40-minute webinar wherein you will learn the value of Unity and become familiar with the Unity interface and learn how to import 360 photos that can be used within different applications. This will prepare you for part 2 of Juan's webinar entitled Using Our 360 Photos Inside Oculus Quest with Unity. At any time you have a question, feel free to use the Q&A tab on the right panel of your screen. Juan will do his best to answer all of them as he can in the last 15 to 20 minutes of the hour. As a reminder, this event is being recorded and the video will be posted to our website within a few days. So, without further ado, let's get started. Juan, take it away.
Thank you, Tanya. Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here in our first IVRPA webinar, and it is my pleasure also to guide you through your first steps within Unity. So, before we start, before we start with my slides, I am launching a poll. I'd like to know if you guys are working mostly as 360 photographers or as 360, or if you shoot 360 video mainly, or if you do both, or if you are a business owner involved in 360 projects. Okay, it seems that most people are oh, it's changing really quick. Okay, it seems that most people are shooting 360 photography and 360 video, and a lot of people are also shooting only 360 photos. Well, that's great, and hopefully you will find all the information from this webinar very useful. Just before we start, I'd like to switch to my slides. Thank you. So, we are mostly 360 photographers or 360 video creators, and this is probably how our portfolio looks like. So probably we're shooting 360 panoramas, also known as VR photography. We might also shoot aerial photos, gigapixels, virtual tours, and 360 video, also known as virtual reality video. Now, let's suppose we have the following situation. 2 years ago, so he's the director of a museum, and 2 years ago, you created a virtual tour for him. Now he's calling you and he's asking you if you could convert that virtual tour into an application for Oculus Quest, because they are expanding and they want to make sure that they can have exhibitions in other countries, and they will just use the Oculus Quest as a way to showcase the pieces of art they have in the museum. Or we have another case where the director is calling you maybe and he says, due to COVID-19, our museum is closed, but we did a survey and it seems like 90% of the people that come to the museum, they are owners of an Oculus Quest headset. We'd like to have an application so that we'd like to make sure that everybody who owns an Oculus Quest headset is able to download an app from the Oculus store. So he starts asking you, can you do that? Can we start creating this project? The question here is, what are you going to say to that question? And of course, this is a great opportunity for us, for you, and for all of us. Now, there is another case here. She is a real estate developer and she will be having ready a new tower of apartments in 2 years. So there is no chance to go and shoot 360 real panoramas, but they have 3D models. So what they would like to do is creating an app for HTC Vive where users could navigate through the 3D models of the apartments by teleporting or by walking, and also interacting with the environment, like changing the colors of the walls, or maybe changing the floor, or turning on and off the lights, etc. And one very nice thing they are also interested in is that they want to also show the real view that the tower will have in 2 years, so that when one person uses the headset, they will choose, okay, I want to see the view from the floor number 20 or 21, and they will see exactly an aerial 360 panorama that was shot in that exactly position. So this is a very nice mix between 360 photography or 360 video and 3D models. And this is something that we can achieve with Unity. So again, the question here is, what are you going to say to the customer? And this is again an opportunity. And that's why I have this yellow bulb here in the slides. Now I have in this slide some photos of some of our favorite virtual reality headsets, together also with the date when they were released to the public. So we can see a trend here. We can see that probably companies are launching a new headset every year or every 2 or 3 years. Here I have just 2 or 3 companies that create VR headsets, but every year there are more and more companies creating them. So there is one question here. What is going to be the next headset, and how can we be prepared for the next one, for the next generation? So let's say if tomorrow there is a new Oculus Quest version 3 coming, and your customer at the museum says, I know that there is a new headset coming, and that headset has now hand tracking, like the new Oculus Quest hand tracking. So they know, uh, we created already an app for the Oculus Quest, but we found that these kind of controllers are not very natural for the people who never used VR before. So the customers of us, our visitors at the museum, they are not gamers. So for some of them, maybe it is the first time that they see a headset. So it is more natural if they can use just their hands to interact. And they know, they read on the newspaper or in every in other place that there is this new hand tracking. So he says, can we do that? Can we convert our virtual app so that now people can interact with the hands? How can we do that, and how can we be prepared for the latest headsets, and start offering solutions to our customers, and keep updated? This is one very nice opportunity for us, and this is why it is very important to use like a system that is that will allow you to be updated. Now, I have an article from a Spanish newspaper. This is a very important newspaper in Spain. The article is a bit old, and I excuse myself for the Spanish title, but I found it as a very nice example of the following situation. So the title says, "We tested augmented reality with the new Samsung Gear VR Innovator Edition." So we all know that the title is wrong, and we all know that the Gear VR was a headset, was a VR headset, not an AR headset. But at least in my experience, I have found that it is very common for people to mix the concepts between AR and VR. So sometimes when my customers come to me, they tell me, I want to create a VR application. I really need to ask them more information to know if they actually wanted a AR or a VR. Or maybe some customers that already bought VR from me, they start asking me if I can do AR because a lot of people, in my experience at least, they assume that if you create VR, you can also create AR. And that is a fantastic opportunity for us. So we as photographers, as 360 photographers or virtual reality creators, we have this great option of expanding our portfolio of services. Now, this brings us to the why. Why Unity? Well, Unity is something that is called a game engine. Game engine, it's just another way to say it is a piece of software that is going to help you to create other kinds of software, like applications. Unity is not the only one. Probably the most popular ones are Unity and Unreal Engine. But there is also Godot, and there are also a lot of engines that are created by big studios, which is massive work, but which is something that we really don't need. So if we didn't have Unity, for example, if we wanted to track a touch from an iPad or a mouse click, we would have to code that behavior and to talk directly to the computer. And that requires more advanced knowledge, and it is not so easy to do, and is really not necessary at all, because we have these guys at Unity or at Unreal who have a team of I don't know, maybe 300 people working on creating that tracking options for us to be ready to go and ready to use. It happens the same with, let's say, the controllers of the headsets. So even before Oculus or HTC Vive, even before they release the headsets, they have already talked to those companies. So Unity or Unreal, they have already talked to those companies, and they have been working together to make it possible that when the new headset comes, you will be ready to start creating for those platforms. And that is amazing. This is great because we have a team working like for us. Um, and that is a big advantage of it. Now, I like to have this equation. So we have Unity here. And let's take all of the ideas that were brought to us by the customers, or by our customers, or we can take also our own ideas, and we now use Unity with those ideas. The result that we can end up having is we could create virtual reality applications, as we saw in the previous cases or in the previous examples, for no matter the headset or for the latest headsets and the latest functionalities of them. But we could also use that knowledge as a base and start exploring more of Unity. We can start learning more about coding, and with that knowledge we are also going to be able to create applications for, let's say in this case, augmented reality glasses like the Magic Leap 1. For those who have not tested Magic Leap 1, they are glasses that are able to project 3D objects in your real world, And it is not like with your cell phone that you have to hold your cell phone or your iPad so that you can see the like those 3D models. You just put on the headset and automatically it will recognize your space, let's say your room, and you can start creating things. You can start positioning elements. Let's say you can start, there is a very nice application within Magic Leap that enables you to create animals, so you can position whales or dinosaurs. And if you have a wall in, yeah, we'll have walls, but they are not going to go through your walls. If you have a, if you position them on the table, they will recognize the table and they will fall from the table. It's a pretty cool thing. And that device is powered by a PC that is attached to it. So it has memory. So next time it will know that you already scanned your room and everything you created will be still there. It's pretty cool thing. Um, Other AR glasses like Magic Leap are like the HoloLens 2, Microsoft HoloLens 2. And last year at Oculus Connect 6, Oculus also announced that they are working currently, they are building augmented reality glasses. And at that conference, I met people who said that there are rumors that Apple is also building augmented reality glasses. So we don't know that, but for sure, this is going to become very interesting for us. And the way to start being ready for that is learning. One really good way is learning Unity or any other game engine. So we came to a point where hardware is finally ready for us to create great software or great contents. So it is a massive opportunity for us, and I am very excited that we are all alive in this time of the history where we are going to be able to create for so many platforms. Okay, so besides virtual reality and augmented reality, we have also short animated films. If you guys have taken a look at Coco VR for Oculus, or I think it is also for HTC Vive, it was made within Unity. So you could even start creating films. Um, Another example, this is a mobile AR example. It is located in California, in Cupertino, at the Apple Park Visitor Center. And it works like you get an iPad Pro, and there is like a model, like a gray model of a building from Apple that is called the Spaceship. So if you just take a look at the model, like the real one, it has nothing to show. It is something boring. But as soon as you get your iPad Pro and you start pointing your iPad Pro to that, you will see magic happening. So you will see the Apple employees walking. You will be able to know how it was built, how it is efficient, and how it protects the environment. You will be able to move the ceiling of it to see what is inside. You will see the cars parking. It is a pretty cool thing. So with Unity, you can create that. If I remember well, that one at the Apple Park building was made with Unreal Engine, but this is something that you can also create within Unity. And of course, you can also create our virtual tours for no matter the device, for um, iPhones or for Android devices. And there is also one very nice thing we can do with Unity. So now let's say you created a virtual tour for a customer and he says or she says, now we want to have that virtual tour on the App Store on the Google Play Store. And this is something that comes very easy with Unity. So it will export a package that you will be an APK file that you will be able to upload to stores and test, like depending on the platform, it's gonna take maybe some weeks for them to accept it, but it is a possibility. So what I wanted to show you guys is that if we start working with Unity now, we will be really good prepared for the future. We For that, what you will need is C# programming, you will start programming in a language that is C#. Um, it will it will be also very nice for us to start having at least a basic or intermediate understanding of the 3D world, like knowing how 3D models work, like knowing all the concepts. It is going to be very, very important. I am also a photographer. And when I started learning Unity, I realized that if I had the knowledge of the 3D world, I was going to be able to create like much more interesting things. And I was reaching out to some friends who are like really into 3D. So it is with that combination of talents, you will be creating great things. And of course, you will need your 360 panoramas or your 360 videos. There is one more thing that you will need, and that thing is passion and patience. Because Unity is not the tool that you will pick up in 1 month or 2 months, depending on your experience and depending also on your time. It is going to maybe take you months or even years for you to feel comfortable with it, but it is totally worth it. And also, I was doing a research, and I found on internet that between 60 and 70% of all VR and AR apps out there were created with Unity. If you want to take a look at them, just you can feel free to go to unity.com/madewith. Now, we're starting with Unity. The first step is installing Unity. We are not going to do the whole process today because this is a short webinar and probably we will need the whole hour to do that. But there are just 4 steps. You can go to the following link. When you go to that link, you will see this screen displaying. In that case, you want to make sure that you are under first-time users and you want to click on the blue button that says Start Here. What that is going to make is download a program that is called Unity Hub, which is compatible for Mac or for Windows. Unity is compatible for Mac or Windows. Unity Hub is a program that is similar to the Adobe Creative Cloud application that we are used to. So in Adobe Creative Cloud, we are free to install Illustrator or downgrade Photoshop or update Photoshop. With Unity Hub, it is the same. We will be able to manage and install different versions of Unity and to downgrade them if you want it. So, and after that, according to the last training I was attending, a training given by Unity Technologies themselves, they were recommending using the Unity version 2018.4 LTS. LTS stands for a long-term support. Well, if Unity folks are recommending that version, I am also going to use that version. But you can feel free to install the latest one. And the last step is creating an Unity ID. You will need it to work with Unity all the time. Now we are going to go and create a new 3D project. So in this case, I'm going to switch to share my screen. So hopefully you can see my screen now. This is how Unity Hub looks like. And here you have different buttons or different tabs. Under the Installs tab, you can see all the versions that you installed before. In this case, we see this 2018.4 version. You can see that it says LTS. Oops. Bad moment to get a phone call. You see that, sorry, that it says LTS version. There is also this community button where you will be able to find blogs or forums or different answers. There is also this Learn tab where you will find different tutorials. I really recommend watching these tutorials. They are like made games. So in all of them, you will be able to learn a different concept of navigating within Unity. Um, it is really fun, and it will teach you, for example, lighting or well, different concepts that you will find very useful. And finally, we come to our projects tab, and here is where you can see all the projects that you have created. So here on this blue button that says new, you want to click on this little arrow button, and here you can select the Unity version you want to use for your project. In our case, we're going to use the Unity version 2018 .4, which is the one that was recommended by Unity. After you do that, Unity will launch, and depending on your computer, it's going to take maybe a couple of seconds or even a couple of minutes to start. And for the purpose of this tutorial, I have Unity already open so that we don't have to wait. Um, and I'm now going back to my slides. So, oops, sorry guys, there is one more thing that I want to show you with Unity Hub. So let's say I want to create a new project. I'm going to choose 2018. This is going to open up this new window with the templates. And by default, it has selected the 3D option. So if you want to work with 360 photos or 360 videos or 3D models, this is the option that you want to have clicked always. Here you will be able to give the project any name you want and to choose the location where you want to store your project. Now, if I click on the create button, it is going to launch Unity. But as I said, I am going just to open the Unity project that I had opened before. So now I'm going back to my slides, and I'm going to introduce you to the Unity interface. So this is how Unity looks like. I know at the beginning it might look a bit intimidating, but it is not, and with the time you will be used to these tabs or windows. So from left to right, on the left-hand side in yellow, we have the hierarchy tab, which is just a list of elements that you have in your game or you have in your application. The next one in blue color is the scene view. It is the scene view is your workspace. It is the place where you're going to position elements and to position all the elements that are going to be part of your app or game. And the next one is called game window, because mostly people are creating games with Unity, but it is actually a preview window. When you see that game window and you hit on that little play icon that is above the game window, you will be able to get a preview of your game or your application and start testing it in real time. The next one in red, it is called the inspector. In that tab is where you're going to handle all the properties of all the objects that you have in your scene or you have in your whole app. So whenever you click on any object from the hierarchy or from the project window, automatically it is going to display its properties under the inspector tab. You can also, on the inspector tab, you can also add some components that are like plugins or like behaviors that you can add to any object that you have in your game or in your app. And then the next one in green is the project window, which is basically like a files explorer on Windows or a Finder tab on Mac. And it's just a place that will enable you to navigate through the files that you have for your game. There are two other tabs that I'm not mentioning now, but I will mention them in Unity. So we are now, I'm going to show you, I'm going to share my screen again, and I'm going to show you Unity. If you open Unity for the first time, your interface will not look like this. In that case, if you on the right hand side, if you go to the button that says layout, you can always change it. For example, you can use default layout, and you will realize that Unity changes the layout and shows you the default one. This is the one that I use the most to work. So here we can see all the tabs that we are using within Unity. One very important thing to notice is that they work the same as if they were browser tabs, like Chrome tabs or Firefox tabs. So you can actually move them and position them to any other place, or you can duplicate them. One thing, and you can, if you are working on two screens, you can take one of the tabs to your second screen, and let's say the game tab, and you can have a like a real, like a preview in real time on your all for your second screen. If you want it, one thing that I like to do when I work with just one screen, like in this moment, is I take this game tab, and that will move it, and I will drag it to this position so that I can see the preview of my game. Within Unity, it is very important to constantly save your progress, because sometimes Unity crashes and you really don't want to lose all the progress that you have made before. So this is something that I do. Another thing that I like doing is going to the project tab or project window and duplicating it so that I have two different project tabs. So in one, I'm going to navigate through photos, and in the other one, I'm going to navigate through videos or different assets. So I'm going to do that. For that, you just go to the project tab, you right click on it, you choose add tab, and inspector. You choose then inspector. And as I said, you can position that tab anywhere you want. So I'm going to position it here. Yeah, so this is how I like to work. This is my personal preference, but feel free also to change it as it feels more comfortable for you. So again here, this is the first time that we have opened Unity today. So what it automatically creates is a folder that is called assets, and within that folder we have a folder that is called scenes. A scene, I like to understand the concept of a scene like a level of a game. We're not going to be dealing with the scenes today, but I wanted to let you know about the scenes. So it is going to give you like the name that you will find on the hierarchy. You can change that name by selecting the scene and pressing F2 on Windows, for example. We can call it, let's say, IVRPA scene, and automatically it is going to change the name of it on the hierarchy. Also, automatically, when you create a new Unity project, it is going to create two objects. Anything that we have here on the hierarchy, it is called a game object, sorry, for by Unity. So we will be talking a lot about game objects in the next session. And there is automatically a camera and a directional light created. Please notice that as soon as you click on the main camera, the inspector is going to show its properties, or the same with the directional light. So now we have a basic understanding of Unity's interface, and I'm going to go back to my slides to see which the next step is. Now, what we're going to create is something to help us stay organized. So we're going to create the following folders. We're going to create a folder that is called materials, and another one that is going to be called textures. So I'm going to share my screen again. And I'm going to show Unity screen. So hopefully you're seeing my screen now with Unity on it. So I'm going to go back to my to my assets folder, and since I have only my scenes folder, I'm going to create the other ones. So you just have to find an empty space here. You right click on it, and you choose create new folder. Where is folder? And you're going to call it materials. Now we are going to create another one that is going to be called textures. And this time I'm going to create an additional one that is called scripts. We won't be using the scripts folder today, but this is the place where we are going to store our pieces of code. A very common question that I get about these folders is, do they always have to have the same name, or can I name it in, like, let's say, can I call it how I want? The answer is yes, you can name them different from this, but working within Unity, you really want to stay organized, and this is more or less like the standard that more people are using out there. So becoming a really good Unity user or Unity programmer or a technical artist also involves a lot of Googling, a lot of forum research, a lot of YouTube tutorials. There is no way that one person is going to know everything about this. So if you go to any tutorial, you will find that most people are going to be using this same way of organizing folders, or a very similar one. There is also another nice reason to learn these names of folders, and that brings us to another Unity tab that I didn't mention before, which is the Asset Store tab that is usually located next to the Scene tab. If you don't see that, you just can go to Window once and open it. So I'm going to select Asset Store, and here it is. The Asset Store is a place where you could buy 3D models or sounds or animation for your app. So in this case, yeah, if I come here, I can search for new assets. For example, 2 weeks ago, I was looking for a piano 3D model for an app that I wanted to create. So this is the place where you want to start exploring the kind of things that can go into Unity. And the thing is, if you download any asset from the asset store, you will find that they come with a lot of folders. Sometimes they are a bit confusing, but it is very important that you get used to these names, to these conventions, so that you know exactly where to find things. All right, I'm going to go back to my slides to show you our next steps. Okay, let's wait a couple of seconds. Yes. Now, we're going to a very important concept. If you have used 3D software before, if you are used to the 3D world, you will find this very common and very easy to understand. But if you're like me and the first time that you wanted to use photos, you came across this concept of materials and textures, and you were confused, then I have a nice explanation that I found. This is the way that I like to understand things and the way that I like to explain them. These concepts are more complicated. You can go to very complex definitions, but I try to I really like to use basic ones so that it is always clear. But feel free to look for the exact definitions also. So let's say we have a present inside these boxes, and we want to give that present to a kid, for example, as a Christmas gift. For that present to look pretty and to look nice, we are going to need some paper wrap. So paper is a material, and we are going to use that paper wrap to wrap our present. Let's suppose that we just found a printer white plain paper, and we are going to use that. So our present is going to look flat and white. Maybe if it's for a kid or if it's a Christmas present, we want to have some image on it. This is when we are going to use textures. So a texture on this image with the paper wrap, we see some patterns here like the white dots or the Christmas trees. These are textures. So we apply a texture to a material and we use our material to wrap our present. So in our case, 360 photos are textures that we are going to apply to a material, and applying them to a material. After doing that, we are going to be able to handle 360 photos within Unity, and Unity will know how to work with them as well. Now, let's go to the next step, which is importing our 360 photos. So I'm gonna go back to sharing my whole screen, and I'm going to go back to Unity. So hopefully you're seeing Unity right now. And I have an additional tab. I am on Windows, so I located the place where I have two beautiful 360 panoramas. What I'm going to do with this is first I'm going to go to Unity. Since we know that our 360 photos are textures, I'm going to open my textures folder, and now I'm going to drag and drop to select my two photos and drag and drop them um, to the Unity empty space within the textures folder. That is going to take a couple of seconds, so we are patient to wait for it. Well, this is funny. Usually this shouldn't take so long. Um, that might be because I am using a lot of things for my graphics card. So maybe I'm driving my computer crazy. But
Do
here
we
they
have
are.
time? Do we have time to take a Q&A in the Q&A column while we're waiting? Like one question?
Yes.
So people, if you have one question while we wait for this to load, go ahead and drop it in the Q&A tab.
Well, now it loaded,
Okay,
so we're ready to go on.
let's move forward.
So now that we see our two 360 photos displaying here, we have to let Unity know how to handle them. So we're going to click on both of them, or we are going to select both of them, and automatically on the inspector, we are going to be able to let Unity know what they are. So under texture type, we are going to let Unity know that this is a sprite. A sprite is just a fancy way to say this is an image with certain properties, and it can also get a little bit more complicated, but this will do for our purposes today. We're going to leave alone all of the other parameters, but we want to come to this maximum size option here. We can use it up to 8K. I usually tend to work with 2K or with 4K. Um, in any way, you feel free to use the size you need for your project and hit and click on the apply button so that it applies the import settings to your two 360 photos. Now, this is also something that sometimes take a bit of time depending on your computer. So meanwhile, I'm going to go back to the slides to see which our next step is. Okay, slides are also loading. Um, okay, So we just did that 360 photos import. Now the next step is creating a material for our 360 photos. Now I'm going to go back to Unity. Here I have my photos with the settings applied to them. Now, one very important thing inside of Unity with the different tabs is that in some of them you have this little lock icon. When you click on that icon, you will be able to lock that folder, that exact folder. I realized that by mistake I created an inspector folder and not a project folder, so I'm going to create another project tab and I'm going to position it here. I'm going to also lock this little tab and I'm going to navigate until I find the materials folder. Inside of materials folder, it is an empty folder, so I'm going to right click on any empty space and I'm going to choose create and material. And I'm going to give this new material a name. I'm going to call it Skybox, Skybox 1. Now, I'm going to click on my material, on my Skybox 1, and automatically the inspector is going to show me its properties. So here under its properties, we have the shader option. Shader is a more complicated concept that is outside of the scope of today's webinar, but also feel free to look for some information about shaders. We're going to let it know that we're going to use the shader called Skybox. And here with 360 photos, you can use either cube map or panoramic. If you wanted to use cube map, you have to change the import settings that you used with the photos. But in my case, I have found more comfortable working with the panoramic option. So as soon as I change the shader, you will see that the options inside Inspector also change. And now it is displaying me this square that says non-texture. So it is telling me, hey, I'm waiting for a texture here. And there are two ways of letting it know which 360 photo we want to use. The first one is selecting this little select button here and finding your 360 photo. Or my favorite one is just per drag and drop. So as soon as I was moving this photo to this place, I can use a preview of our 360 photo here. I have there are some settings that I can also change here. And before explaining a couple of those settings, I want to have the chance to show you something about Unity. So I'm going to go to hierarchy. I'm going to right click here and create a 3D object, and I'm going to create a cube. This is just to show you something about Unity. So when I click on my cube, I will be able to see its properties on the inspector. So we have a component. So the properties or the plugins are called components inside of Unity. We have a component that is called transform. That is just the way that Unity understands the concepts of position, rotation, and scale. So whenever you see transform, it is just a fancy way to say position, rotation, and scale. Now, you can see that if I start moving my cube, we're going to learn how to navigate and move objects within Unity in our next webinar. But in this case, I'm just going to move it like this. So you see that the position on the x-axis is changing. You can also change this position by moving this part of the x-axis or the y one. What I want to tell you with this is that within Unity and with code, you can access everything that is here. So everything or almost everything that you see here on the inspector tab, it is it will provide you the chance to modify it through code. So we are going to use that concept in the next webinar, but it is very important for you to know that you can change anything here with code. If you don't know how to do that, because usually a lot of things, Unity has plenty of new things for everyone, you can go just to Google or to the forums and write C# how to access transform component, and you will find all the answers. So now I'm going to go back to my material. I wanted to show you that here I could, for example, change the tint of my photo. Um, I am not going to use that. I also can change the exposure of my photo and the rotation. But since we're photographers, we usually do all of this either in Photoshop or in Lightroom. But it might be useful in some cases to modify exposure here. So let's say you have an application where you want, so if you start in Panorama 1 and then you're going to go to Panorama 2, you want to have this nice transition effect to black or to white. Yeah, you know that you can access the exposure setting within Unity to create this very nice effect so that you don't have to create it outside. You can do that within Unity. You can also change the rotation, and we are going to use latitude longitude layout, and here you can select if it's a 360 or a 180. In this case, we're selecting a 360. And now we have our material, our skybox created. Now we have two 360 photos, so we could either work with one material and change the texture of it, or we can, and this is my personal preference, we could have two different materials. So in order to avoid to have to create a new material from scratch, I'm just going to select my skybox one, and I'm going to hit Control D on Windows or Command D on Mac, and that is going to create an exact copy of that object. So within Skybox 2, I'm going to drag and drop my second 360 photo. And now we have two materials using two 360 photos. Now the question is, how can we use our 360 photos in our game? There are two options for this. I'm going to show them. I am speeding up a little bit because I know we are running out of time. So one of them is just selecting your skybox and taking it to directly to the scene window. What it is going to do, it is going to modify the lighting settings. If you want to see the lighting settings, you just have to go to Window tab and select rendering and lighting settings. So here you see that we find our skybox. So that is one way of doing this. I also wanted to show you a very nice thing. So here in our material, we see that we can select spherical HDR image. So there are people that are photographers that are selling 360 photos for people who are working on games or on any kind of application within Unity. HDR, especially HDR 360 photos, are very useful in the 3D world. With the information that we take from our 360 photos, software like Unity can understand the lighting from the real world, and they are able to project it to the objects that you have in the inside of Unity. So I want you to take a look at this cube. Now it looks white, but if I change the skybox, oh, I'm sorry, I was not using the skybox, I was using texture. So if I use the skybox, you see that it changes the color, and now it is slightly red because we had this beautiful sunset that, by the way, these photos were created by Monica Mesa. Yeah, so if I change again the skybox, it is going to change the color of my cube. And again, if I rotate my skybox here, the cube is going to get different sources of lighting. And this is great because this is something that 3D artists or game designers are going to be using so that their characters inside of Unity look real with a proper lighting from the outside environment. I just wanted to let you know that. So this is the first way to import our 360 photos inside of Unity. So in this way, if I can start rotating our 360 photo by doing this, by moving one game object component that is called the main camera. So that brings me to talking about the main camera. The main camera within Unity or within any other 3D software is exactly what the camera in the real world is. It is a device that displays only the composition that the photographer wanted to show to share with the world. So when you click on the camera, here in the inspector, you will see all its properties. If you click under the physical camera checkbox, you will be able to even adjust the focal length, the sensor type, and you can get as detailed as you want. I usually don't modify this. What I usually modify is the field of view. Now, when you are modifying a 360 photo or when you're navigating through a 360 photo, what you are actually doing is moving the camera so that it shows a different part of the photo. So this was the first way of using 360 photos within Unity. Now I'm going to show you the second one, and to show you the second one, I just have to reset my lighting settings to default. The second option is going again to the camera, and here on the inspector, clicking the Add Component button. And Unity is pretty smart, and since it knows that we were working with skyboxes, it will give us the option to add a skybox component. Whenever you see like a text box like this, you can know that you can drag and drop things. So it is asking me for a material. There are two ways of choosing a material here. One is clicking on this little circle button and choosing the material we want to use, or the other one is just drag and drop. So here I'm going to use again my skybox material. So these are the two ways that we have to import our 360 photos within Unity. Now, before we go to the Q&A time, I want to do a quick recap of what we learned today. So in today's section, we learned why using Unity, how to install Unity and create a new project specialized for 360 photos or videos. We learned which the main windows inside of Unity are, and two very important things. We learned about materials and textures applied to our 360 photos, and we learned how to import them. It is very, very important for you guys to remember this, because myself also as a photographer, when I started in Unity, I came across with a lot of information, but mostly, like most tutorials out there, they are related to game development. But we're photographers, so to avoid that you spend hours and hours on forums and testing things and maybe testing more complicated things, we as IVRPA decided to create this kind of webinars to make your workflow way easier. And we will be ready for the next part when we are going to integrate probably the Oculus Quest, and we're going to create a basic interaction. And from that moment, you will be free to let your imagination fly and your Google skills, Google research skills, to find how to make anything you want to create. Now, let's say if I can answer your question. So Forrest Brennan says, what is the best resolution for quality and functionality that Unity works best with? My opinion about that is it depends on your project. So if your project is going to be for web, you probably don't need as much resolution as if you're going to create for for virtual reality headsets. For virtual reality headsets, you also have to take into account.
Can anybody still hear me? Okay. Oh, wow, that's really unfortunate. I'm really sorry about that, but as 360 photographers, you do know that technical difficulties do happen. And we have tested this before many days for this presentation, and we're really sorry that this happened. No, I don't think we ran out of time, Lauren, because we did test this before when we did go over time, and it still seemed to work. So not really sure what the issue is. I'm going to wait a second to see if Juan can get back in the room, but otherwise, I think, unfortunately, I think we do need to wrap this up, and we are very sorry about that. Well, okay. Shoot. We'll try to, you know what we'll do? We'll try to figure out some sort of solution. Maybe if you all will join us in our member Slack channel, you'll be able to ask some Q&A. Maybe Juan will be able to answer those questions. We're really sorry about that. So I think we're going to wrap this up. Thanks everyone for joining us today. As you leave the event, you will have the opportunity to submit a survey on today's presentation. I actually don't know if that's still going to be possible. Karen, can you speak?
Yeah, I'm here.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, I just want to, I see questions like when's part 2? So we've penned in part 2 for June 6th. Oh no, sorry, not June. Oh, I don't have the date right here on top, but it's
next Friday, right?
Next Friday. Is that?
Yeah.
Yep.
June 2nd, I believe, but I'm double checking.
Okay.
June 5th.
June 5th. Okay. Right. So, and I think since Juan isn't here, I think what happened is he got disconnected somehow. So, yeah. Yeah. Okay. Was there another question you wanted to ask me?
Who, me?
Uh-huh.
No, I think maybe you should tell the members that are here about the Slack channel, and meanwhile, I'm going to go on the back end and see if I can get Juan back into this webinar. Okay.
Okay. Yeah. Yeah. So those of you who are members, I know we have some people who aren't members, but those of you who are members, we've opened up a Slack channel where we can connect with you in real time, and there is in the forum. You can see our newsletter. We have a link that goes to a sign up sheet, and we will add you in. So, yeah, Thorsten, it'll probably be the same time as today. So, yeah.
So it looks like, oh, okay. So Juan says he's still here, but his tab froze. He can't use his mic and he cannot type.
Okay. Well.
Oh, it's very unfortunate. We're really sorry, but thank you for your understanding.
Yeah.
So I think we're going to wrap this up for now. So this is Tanya Barnes. I'm the Director of Online Education at IVRPA. And as we continue to expand our online offerings, any and all feedback is extremely helpful. Remember, IVRPA is run by a team of volunteers, and we respond well to constructive criticism. Thank you very much. Also, should you wish to be considered to present a webinar, we would also love to hear from you. Be sure to explore our website at ivrpa.org to learn more about 360 VR photography and videography. And if you wish to stay informed about our upcoming webinars, become a member. It's free, so sign up at ivrpa.org. Very sorry for this technical difficulties, but we do hope to see you at future webinars, and goodbye for now.
Bye, everybody. Thanks a lot for your attention, and it was great to see you. So see you next time for part 2. Keep an eye out.
Thank you.